So I think it's important to recognize you have to have some ability to say there's a right and a wrong, right? I mean, there's got to be some semblance of reasonability in the request, and that part would be still an estimate. But as far as saying just throw chunks of work at us, it doesn't matter, we'll figure it out. That seems a little dangerous to me.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Real Agile or BS. We here at Agile for All love answering your questions around agility and anything when it comes to Agile, Scrum, or any of the frameworks. Today, we have an interesting topic. Is it Real Agile or BS? Not estimating backlog items. And so this is an interesting topic because I think in a lot of ways, it really is a relative consideration depending on your organizational size, the mission and the vision and the work that you're working on. And so I'm going to throw this one first over to you, Bob. Is not estimating backlog items Real Agile or is it BS? What would you say?
Peter, I think my answer over this has changed over time because a number of years ago, I would have said that's total BS. But now I think there are ways that you can make it be Real Agile, but you have to look at what you're actually doing. So are we actually not estimating or are we changing how we estimate? So, and this is a conversation I had on Twitter a few weeks ago when I did a daily dose video on the no estimates movement. So part of no estimates is you just don't estimate anything. You just go from the top of your backlog down. In that case, I'm not so sure it's 100% agile unless you're doing something like a Kanban type of system. It doesn't fit well in the sprint methodology of Scrum, things like that, because you wouldn't know what to commit to at the start of a sprint. On the other hand, if you're not estimating because you just break things down and they're always small and you know you do about 10 or 12 of them of sprint and you just say, let's do the top 10. Well, now you're not estimating each item, but you're estimating that you can get 10 of them done. So you're changing how you estimate. And I think that's very much Real Agile. I'm very on board with people saying, hey, there's only two sizes for items. There's too big and right sized, and we have 10 of them the right size, we go. I think that's great. I think that's a really good practice, learning how to break things into small chunks of value. Very valuable practice. Richard Lawrence, a long time ago, created the user story splitting workflow sheet. We still have it on our website. It's definitely the most popular way to do that in the world. That's a key skill for teams to get to how to break down work small. But on the other hand, if you're just saying, yeah, we don't care if it's big or small, we're just going to attack them in the order and, who cares? That can get kind of dangerous. And I'm not fully convinced that that can be Real Agile. Although you can be acting in an agile way and doing that, you're just going to have different things you're striving for. And I think you had an example of that with one of your current companies.
That's right. In one of the current companies that I'm consulting for, we have 4 teams and none of them estimate backlog items. It really is a delivery-based trust system. And I think this is important because we're running Agile 100%. But we're not necessarily leveraging the framework of Scrum. If many of you guys have taken classes with Bob and I, you guys know that Agile is the umbrella of sorts, and there's various frameworks under that, whether it be Scrum or Lean or Kanban or DSDM, test-driven development, XP, Crystal, which is Crystal. I sometimes bring up Crystal, Alistair Coburn, even though it's like 2 decades old. But there's a lot of different frameworks out there. And for the startup that I'm working with 4 teams, all of them are running essentially on a Kanban system where we've substantiated great continuous integration, continuous deployment mechanisms and automation. So it's easy for us to constantly pull small work items, be able to work on them effectively and deliver them. Now, I will say, I think it's important that your development framework, as well as your operational framework, really plays a large part in your ability to maybe not estimate. And the reason I say this is if you can continuously integrate, if you can continuously deploy, your clients, your customers, your internal management, and your stakeholders should be pretty happy because you're constantly deploying value to your customers and you're constantly deploying value out to the market. And so if you work under the auspices of this type of environment, I think no estimates are great because you're delivering consistently and you've built up that trust in your organization. Now, if you work in a different organization, a medium or maybe a large, more traditional size organization, a lot of the management care about those estimates because it helps them project and project in a lot of ways, dates, milestones, and these types of things. And estimation for a team, if you're running under Scrum, is very valuable for the team to understand their own capacity. And so it's hard for me to say if it's real agile or BS. I would say that in sum total, that no estimates, depending on context, you can completely run an agile, because I'm doing that with 4 teams at a company right now. But when it comes to the type of measurements and the type of reporting that that a company might need, estimates can play a very powerful role in helping make informed decisions for management. And so I think that no estimates on backlog items is real agile, but you have to be really careful there, because estimation can be a really sticky subject depending on the context and depending on the audience, for sure.
And you said a couple of interesting things there, Peter. You said that estimates can give people the ability to project and things like that. And I think we have to be very careful to say that it gives them the illusion of being able to do that, because estimates are only guesses at the end of the day, right? I mean, we don't know that they're right or wrong. So we have an illusion that we can do these things, but we can still get to that point as estimates can theoretically get better and things like that. But at the end of the day, there's still just an estimate, and we have to treat it as though it's an estimate. And an estimate is a guess. And whenever we're making guesses, we're basically making hopefully informed, I don't even want to call them decisions, we're making informed bets. We're actually spending money and choosing to do it in a way where we're gambling a little bit that we're going to be right. Another key thing that you said was the way your teams are doing it right now is they're pulling small chunks of work.
Yes.
I don't think it works very well when you're just saying, hey, just give us work in random sizes and we'll figure it out. That to me doesn't work. But when you say small chunks, what the no estimates people would tell you is, hey, doesn't matter to us. We're not going to know if they're big or small. We're just going to attack them in value order. So that's a slight tweak. And again, now you're not estimating their total size. You're just estimating, is it small enough to attack? And I think that it changes how you're estimating. So you wouldn't say, hey, let's put a man on the moon. That's our next sprint. That would be too big, right? So, but you're estimating a little bit there. You're just not estimating the same way we would. The precision, I guess, would be way less.
Yeah.
And but you're still doing some form of estimation. So I think it's important to recognize you have to have some ability to say there's a right and a wrong, right? I mean, there's got to be some semblance of reasonability in the request, and that part would be still an estimate. But as far as saying just throw chunks of work at us, it doesn't matter, we'll figure it out. That seems a little dangerous to me. I mean, and you're not working that way, I know, because you're taking big features and breaking them into small chunks and delivering value in small chunks. That to me is again a twist on it. I think no estimates whatsoever is very dangerous, but no estimates and saying we're just going to attack small chunks of work in order and just keep going and work in a Kanban fashion, that to me is very safe. And I think that's Kanban at its core. So I would say that's probably a real agile for sure. And you're trying to minimize cycle time and things like that. Those are all really good things that all teams should be doing, and very few teams are.
So I've actually had this conversation with a couple of students and clients before around maturity of an organization. And what has come up a couple times over the last decade, so not too many times to be quite frank, is this idea of that has arisen, which is the more mature your organization is, the more opportunity for you not to have to go and do estimates. And so I've often looked at it kind of from that functional level, that it really is a function of, hey, we might not need to estimate if we have a mature organization and we have all these good disciplines in place, like breaking stuff down to its smallest logical unit, having a trusting environment and culture where when we say we were going to deliver 7 stories, we have over time historically been able to prove that behavioral nuance. And so I think I'm wondering what your opinion is on this, because I feel, in the startup that I'm working with, by the way, guys, is only a year old. I would not consider them a mature organization whatsoever. However, our tech stack, our infrastructure and our architecture and our automation is ridiculously mature. So I wonder what your opinion is. Is no estimates a function of maturity?
Peter, I think I don't think it is anymore. I would have said yes 5 years ago, but now it's different. I think the reason we're using estimates is to project releases. And so I think it's around the maturity of how well you can do releases. And the reason we do big releases is because releasing is difficult and it costs money, and it makes our
Yes.
It causes, it's a moment in time when our customers could stop trusting us if it goes badly. So we don't do it very often. But if you have continuous delivery or even just incremental delivery all the time and it's always smooth, I don't think there's any I think that's more of an inhibiting factor because now I don't have to estimate when the release is. I know it's just going to happen when the feature's done, right? So
Mhm.
I'm thinking it's more a tech stack related issue for most companies today, at least the ones that I'm dealing with.
I think that's probably where I was kind of driving to with my color commentary there is I'm coming to this conclusion that the more mature your tech stack and the disciplines of your development organization are, because, and again, the implicit ideas here, everyone listening out there, is that with these disciplines, you're breaking stuff down. You have a consistent team. You have a trusting team. You're able to communicate effectively between your developers and your ops, your DevOps. You have a great relationship with your product owner who's able to sufficiently communicate the ideas from a business context, and we developers are able to translate that effectively into functional working code, right? These are kind of the implicit assumptions that we have when we say that you have a mature tech stack or a mature IT development environment. And so I'm coming to this conclusion that well, actually, I'd go even farther here, Bob. I would say that it is probably, this might be a hair raiser for some of our listeners, but I think that in today's world, with today's technology, I actually had a conversation with one of the venture capitalists who funded the startup, is that building software continuously, effectively, and deploying quality code is no longer it's no longer a competitive advantage. I truly believe this, and it might put people might get upset with me saying this, but 10 years ago, to develop code continuously and deploy, huge competitive advantage. But we're so far away from that now. I find that if you don't have an IT development shop that is at a maturity where you can continuously deliver in 2021, I mean, you're really kind of shooting yourself in the kneecaps. I think it's no longer a competitive advantage. It is a standard operating expectation that that companies should be able to continuously integrate. But maybe I'm just speaking from a little bit of passion here. What say you, Bob? Am I
Well,
pushing the envelope too
I
much?
think if you're talking about startups, you're probably right. I
Yes.
think startups need to be in that mode, but the majority of the world isn't in a startup mode, and there's a humongous industries where it's just not even possible, like the banking industry and other
Sure.
things with high governance and Defense Department stuff. So, I think it's unrealistic for gigantic sections of the software realm to just not be able to do that stuff. On the other hand, could they learn a lot from it and improve? Absolutely. The F-35 fighter jet is getting updates of software much more frequently than any other plane in history because Lockheed's been able to do agile and do incremental development and deliver increments of that software much more frequently than ever before. So it's happening, but it's not going to be like an Amazon or something where they deliver features every 10 seconds or whatever it is for them. Um, but there's an in-between state, and then there's the full, hey, if you're a new startup and you're in the tech world, and let's say you're in crypto or something, it gets pretty ridiculous pretty quickly. You've got to be able to deliver very, very quickly, or you're not going to meet your market, and your market's going to move beyond you in a matter of days. It's not even weeks or months.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. So bringing us back, we've had a great conversation here around not estimating backlog items. I think we're at an agreement that it is agile, but it's really contextually sensitive and relative to your organizational maturity, your tech stack maturity, and these types of things. Would you agree, Bob?
Absolutely. Definitely a thumbs up on that. I think we have to be very, very careful. On the other hand, I think it's a great experiment. This is the conversation I had on Twitter with people. I'd love to have teams experiment whether they can do it, because I think what they would learn from experimenting by trying it would be tremendous learnings that would really help them no matter where they ended up. Just try it, see how badly or how well it works, and adjust from there. I think it would be ridiculously useful.
We'll take that. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for today's episode of Real Agile or BS. Is estimating backlogs real agile? Well, we're saying it's contextual and relative. Let us know your ideas in the comments below. And of course, subscribe, share, smash the like button. And of course, I have to say, check out our new website at agileforall.com and our community site. We'd love to see you guys there. We're always open for answering any questions that whether you post them on a feed,